Good afternoon. We spoke in the third presentation, which I made, of the curious events that attended to the termination of one town manager, the hiring of another, and the fact that we, the citizens, seem to not be allowed to either participate or be privy to these events. There's something profoundly wrong with that. In the briefest possible terms, we're the boss. We, the citizens and taxpayers, are the boss. Everyone else either represents us or is employed by us. I think one of the most telling things that occurred in the last years was when the Board of Selectmen, unhappy with a couple of people who routinely used the opportunity of public comment to say things to them that either they didn't want to hear, they didn't like, or whatever. And I don't say whether they were right or wrong in that. But what I would say is that if you are elected to a Board of Selectmen, then you are obliged to take account of all public comment. We can accept somebody who would be, I don't know, intemperate or rude, but that's just the normal separation of bad manners from good. Anybody who presents himself or herself to the board and presents a point of view, however vigorously, but remaining within the bounds of normal courtesy, should be welcome. But not Wolfboro. Nope. Don't want to hear from us. So in order to address this, what they took to be a noisome problem, somebody who regularly told them they were doing a bad job. And again, I'm not taking sides in that. I'm just saying that's what was happening. They decided to move the public comment from the beginning of the selectmen's meeting, where it belongs, to hear from us, their boss, to the end of the meeting, where they knew perfectly well that there'd be hardly anyone left, and very few people would put up with the normal vicissitudes of a Board of Selectmen's meeting in order to have the privilege of their 3 minutes to voice an opinion. Now, we've talked about this before. I repeat it for a purpose because I feel that it addresses a significant issue. We, the citizens, the taxpayers, the voters, we've been sidelined. We don't matter anymore. Oh, yes, we can say what we want to say, and they can nod away and say, well, thank you for coming. But actually, nothing happens. Not ever. So when you have a situation in a town that is supposed to be governed by its citizens, where the citizens are no longer at the table, you have undermined the very principle of your government. The reason I've touched on this again is because it attends so many issues that happen in Wolfboro. As we seem to be in the town office for a moment, let's stay there for a bit. Some years ago, there was a long discussion about what to do about our town hall. It was admittedly not in very good condition anymore. And the question was whether we should refurbish it or whether we should seek an alternative solution. A couple of things happened that maybe should not have happened from the standpoint of a taxpayer at any rate. the decision was made to refurbish the existing town hall. That was pushed through by a small group of people who wanted a monument. Well, fair enough. You can do that in a small town, and if you can get enough voices to support your imperial ambitions, you can probably go ahead with the project. I don't think that it was ever looked at responsibly by town management. What actually does a town want in its town hall? It wants a satisfactory office space for its staff. It wants something clean and neat with adequate parking so that everybody can get there easily who has business to transact. And it wants something, or should want something, economical. So without dwelling too long upon it, there were other good solutions offered. The most logical, and we'll connect with that in a later broadcast, was the White Elephant New Huggins Hospital, which had an entire wing that was empty. And during the refurbishment of the town hall, the town actually relocated its offices there. Now, that could have been a solution to two needs. One, the town's need for office space, and two, the hospital's need to have some income from space that they had overbuilt. It couldn't be used. So it was quite a burden on the hospital's neck. And the other thing that townspeople appreciated was that there was plenty of parking, easy access. So why exactly we didn't choose that, I'm not sure, but we didn't. So let's get to what we did do, which was to refurbish the town hall. Now, I'm not alone in going to the town hall today, which after all was quite recently refurbished, to notice that a lot of things don't seem to be holding up very well. At huge expense, that building was poorly refurbished. Somehow it seems that whenever the public sector is involved in refurbishing or building a building, it costs about twice what anybody in the private sector would pay. The work is simply not well done. You have cheap flooring, you have trim that is already flaking. You have a rather vaingloriously baptized great room. Actually, it's just a meeting room for the town, which almost anyone could have told the town would be close to unusable because the acoustics are awful. Any room that has all hard surfaces is going to have very poor acoustics. It's so bad that if people congregate to listen to a presentation, it's very hard to hear the presentation. How did that happen? How can it be that nobody knew that the acoustics in that room were going to be awful? It's not possible. Anybody with the common experience of life would have known. What I'm drawing attention to is bad management. It's the sort of thing that a manager is supposed to attend to. It has nothing to do with opinions. It has nothing to do with what decor to use. It has nothing to do with what name we want to give the room. It has to do with the room being usable for its purpose. And this large room is hardly usable for its purpose after we spent millions. So if you take a little care to look at details the next time you go to the town office, Look at the flooring, look at the window trim, look at how the doors are fitted. I don't think you'll be happy with what you see once you look at it with a little care. My point is this: if we were going to do it, we should have done it well. And we certainly allowed more than enough money for it, probably too much. But somehow in public projects, you never know where the money goes. I mean, a few years ago, we had a proposal which regrettably was just barely passed to put a couple of toilets at the Dockside restaurant for an astronomical sum, hundreds of thousands of dollars. You could have built a small house for that money. But that's what happens with public projects. No restaurant at the Dockside would have spent that sort of money to make adequate and good quality toilets, meeting all codes. I know that's the first thing they come out with is, well, we have all these codes to meet. Yeah, I know that. So, by the way, do private businesses. So that's not the answer. The answer is that when you get public funds involved, they will be misspent. Happens all the time. And we all know it. But in a small town, we should be able to intervene on our own behalves and say no. There should particularly be somebody who represents us in the town office, logically the town manager, who on our behalves says, no. Come back to me with something else. This doesn't make sense. We're not very good in Wolfboro at saying this doesn't make sense. I could cite innumerable examples. Some of them are humorous from the past. And some are less so because they ended up always costing us money that we didn't need to spend. I'm all for quality, by the way. Never misunderstand that. I like to do things right. I like to do them once. I like what we buy to be of good quality and durable. That, by the way, is economical. To do anything else is wasteful. So I come back to the issue with which I began this presentation today, and that's public input, participation. Having a good old-fashioned wrangle on the floor of a meeting room and having different opinions listened to, respected. It doesn't matter that we don't agree with them. Maybe the person speaking is raising a valid point. So respect would suggest giving it a hearing. Maybe it's not expressed in quite the way that it should be. Doesn't matter. They're citizens and voters. They have the same right to speak as anyone else. And, more to the point, the same right to be heard. We'll speak more about that. Thank you very much.